You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know that safety at the expense of liberty is slavery. We got a great show for you tonight, a great guest that I will be introducing in just a second. But I want to say hi to everybody over in the comments. We got Roland Parker, Jason T.G. Sponsler, Wanda, MPCV, Lori Matthews, Ted Boyette, and many, many more. If you're just now jumping in, make sure you say hi over in the comments to try to hit you up. Been busy, folks. We're getting ready to go into next week. We'll be having our last XP long range courses this year. So we're excited to get out there, do some more long range shooting. We will be doing another NRL style course out at Spears Mountain Black Bear shooting facility. That is not up on the website yet, but it will be. So stay tuned for that. We'll get that listed. So, and that will have a prerequisite of XP long range level 1 and 2. Anyways, if you're interested in doing field type matches, NRL or otherwise, stay tuned for that. Make sure you jump in that. I think we have, I want to say only like 10 slots that we're going to have that, just because we want to keep the class small on that. So if you want to do that, we got some really, really good instructors for that, and I'm excited about getting that going. Of course, we just launched our own line of custom precision rifles, folks. That's been going really great. We really appreciate all the orders. We've sold several of the rifles that we already built. We got several more custom orders coming in already, so we really appreciate that support. I'm excited to see where that's going to go. Yeah, good stuff all around. Hank, good to see you, buddy. Mike Hinn, Gary Shaver, and everybody else that are jumping in. Again, make sure you guys say hi. But without further ado, I want to invite a gentleman. Number one, I consider him a personal friend for a long time, but we've known each other, I think, going on about 10 years now. But he's a great guy. And without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Peter Churchborne to the party. Peter, welcome, man. Thanks for doing this.
What is happening? So glad to be here. Good to see you, Gary.
You too, man. So if you will, Peter, just take a moment, introduce yourself to everybody, some of the organizations that you've been a part of and kind of what you're doing right now. And then we'll kind of get into some other topics that we want to hit hard and heavy tonight.
Sounds good. My name is Peter Churchborne, and I've worked in the outdoor hunting conservation space my entire life. My first career was with Ducks Unlimited. I was there for almost 18 years. Then I was hired at the National Rifle Association to run all of their hunting and range programs. And then just recently, about 8 days ago, I became the executive director of the NRA Foundation.
Now, Peter, for those of us that don't know or don't really understand, because I sure didn't before I really talked to you about this, but what is the difference between the NRA Foundation and the NRA itself? And of course, you know, the NRA has multiple different sub organizations, I guess I would call them.
Affiliates.
Yep. So tell us what that's about.
Yeah. So the NRA Foundation is the 501c3 side of the NRA. It is the nonprofit foundation that was set up in 1990 to be able to support the tax deductible type operations of the NRA. It's affiliated, but they are two distinct different organizations. NRA was started in 1871, long time ago, in the state of New York. And then the foundation was started in Washington, D.C. That's where we are registered in 1990.
Awesome. Yeah. And folks, you know, I've voiced some opinions about where the current state of the NRA is. What I can tell you right now is that Peter's one of the good guys. I've known Peter for a long time. We've talked a lot about some of these things, and he is one of the guys that you want in one of these organizations. So I'm really glad to see that he's taken a leadership role, because what I do believe, and I've stated this before too, is that, you know, the NRA is it's a national institute, right? And and we want it to be doing great things, and hopefully we can see some things change within that. And I know that the NRA Foundation is very different, but you've also been telling me a little bit about some other projects that you've been doing, and when it comes to conservation, gun safety, which I found very interesting and was very educational, to say the least. And that's one of the reasons I want to have you on to talk a little bit about that. So take that away, Peter.
Awesome. Yeah. So when I was at the NRA, I was actually funded by the foundation. I was working there. That's how a lot of the programs that the NRA does is actually funded by the NRA Foundation. So at that time, we did some research because I was in the hunting world. We wanted to know what the American attitudes were, non-hunting American attitudes were towards hunters. We did a pile of research. We ended up writing a book. You can Google it. It's called How to Talk About Hunting. And we learned a pile of information. One of the biggest things we learned was that non-hunting adults in America will support hunting if they are given the facts. And I ask people all the time that hunt, how many people do you think in the United States hunt? And I always get 60 million people, 50 million people. Well, the facts are there's only about 15 million hunters in America. It's about 4.5% of the population. So it was really important for us to build a communication strategy. So let hunters share their story with non-hunters. I called it protecting cultural acceptance of hunting. I didn't necessarily want to try to recruit all those people. We're running out of places for those people to hunt. But I certainly wanted their support if they were given an opportunity to vote in my favor. And we learned that when we told them certain things, they would support us. So I was asked to do a keynote speech several years ago at a convention in Texas called EarthX. And I gave a presentation with another gentleman by the name of Ivan Carter on something called the North American Model of Conservation. It's basically how conservation is funded in the United States. And we talked a lot about Pittman Robertson. And if you don't know, all of you that are on this podcast that buy firearms and ammunition, you are a contributor to Pittman Robertson. It's named after two senators that started a bill in 1934, basically said that there's a 10% tax on firearms and ammunition that is set aside to be used for wildlife conservation in the United States. It was amended in the 70s to add handguns and archery equipment with an 11% tax. And that tax every year for the past 7 years has produced over $1 billion with a B. And yeah, it's a crazy number. And that is how your state wildlife agencies are funded. So if you don't hunt, in every state, you have a state wildlife agency, and their job is to manage healthy game populations and ecosystems in your state. People know them as game wardens, but there's way more depth in a state wildlife agency than just a game warden. There's biologists. There are that deal with wetlands, with hardwoods, with uplands, with water quality. And they're very smart scientists that take all of this information and research and they use it to manage healthy game populations and ecosystems. We as humans have affected change in everything. And when we build a subdivision, we affect everything around it: the streams, the uplands, how things feed, migration corridors. So we have to make sure that we are managing everything around that to maintain those healthy wildlife populations. And so state agencies are funded by that Pittman Robertson dollars. There's a complicated algorithm that only allows every state to get so much money based on their hunter population versus their overall population. But they match those dollars mostly with hunting license sales. So it's just not free to them. It's actually a 3-to-1 match. State's got to come up with the first dollar, and then Pittman Robertson puts in the next $3. And that's how they do all the projects in the state that they do. But I gave this presentation to a bunch of oil executives in Texas. And after it, one of them came up to me who wasn't a shooter or a hunter, which I was shocked. And he said, hey, this thing that you just talked about up there, that you said it delivers almost $1 billion a year. If that's really what's happening, then you need to tell that story, because people don't know it. And it's an awesome story to tell. So right there, I was like, idea, we got to film a documentary. So about a year and a half later, I got the funding together and I got the approval to do it. And then we've been, for the last 6 months, and we got another basically year to go, filming the activities of the state wildlife agencies to show the audience in a extremely artistic way how all that conservation comes into play.
Oh, that's pretty awesome, man. No, and you know, even when you were telling me that, I didn't realize that. I know most people don't. And so every single gun that's manufactured here in the United States or sold here in the United States, I guess,
that's correct.
You're actually, that tax money is built into the price. Essentially, it's obviously not, you know, it's nothing that we see as an FFL. I'm not charging everybody another 10% or 11% or whatever it is to pay for that. So that goes into that, and that is what actually funds the majority of the wildlife management and everything else that we do here in the United States when it comes to fishing game specifically.
That's right. The manufacturers who make those items self-report that. I think it's quarterly to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I believe maybe the IRS is involved. That I should know that. But there's a department under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service called the Department of Conservation Investment. And they're the ones that actually dole that money out to the state agencies. There's a structure of individuals that are located around the country that work with their state agencies to make sure all the money's being used properly and gets the right match, and then gets to the state when they need it.
Well, I think those folks, and specifically a lot of Democrats out there, those folks that are against gun control, so they don't realize they're actually reducing the tax income when they do that. I think that's a whole nother angle that needs to be kind of addressed, and is actually going against any sort of funding for environmental protections and things like that. Now, obviously, when we're talking about what they're doing with the environment, we're not talking about some of the wacko environmentalists and all this other stuff. We're talking about legit hard science is happening out there in the field. And you've actually shared some of the video clips and things like that from, was those video clips that you were sharing with me, was that from that documentary? Yeah.
That was the crew. They were up in Alaska, and they got on a whale carcass, and there was like 20 brown bears. And they just, when brown bears are in that feeding frenzy, they don't pay close attention to humans. So our film crew got to get in there, we're like 5 yards away, and set up and got some amazing footage over 4 or 5 days. And that's one thing about this documentary. We're using no B-roll. It's all our original footage. We spent 15 days in Utah doing bear den visits with the Utah Fish and Game. So in Utah, there's 3,000 to 4,000 black bears, and I think maybe they have 40 of them that have collars on them, that the batteries need to be changed every 1 or 2 years, depending on how long the battery life lasts. And so they go and make the visits to the den, and they're all sows, females, because they're want a modern reproductive rates of them. So we use telemetry, GPS to find the somewhat location, and then we use telemetry to locate it within 100 yards. And then somebody's got to crawl into that den and dart that bear. It's either used a rifle or a pistol with a tranquilizer on it, or we also have a pole that they get stuck. And sometimes it takes 2 darts to put them down. Then once they're down, pull them out. We do blood checks, weigh them, change the collar. If there's cubs in the den, they usually get chipped like you would chip your dog. And then they all get tucked back in, and we leave, and they never recognize we were there. They go about their business. So we did that, got some unbelievably great footage up in the mountains of Utah. We will be in South Dakota in September doing duck banding. So we're going to do what's called rocket netting. So the ducks are baited in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's totally legal, or allowed to bait. And then they use cameras to figure out when there's a lot of ducks there, and then there are actually rockets that go over the ducks, and then you go collect them up. And then same thing. You'll take blood samples, check them for their vitality, and then all put a metal band on their leg. That's an identifier, so that when they are harvested or found deceased, that number can be called in, and the scientists use that to track their migration. So when they catch them, we'll be in we're in parts of South Dakota that's written on the band. And then when they're returned, then they'll know where they went. I've harvested ducks I harvested a goose one time that was banded in Russia, and it was 22 years old. Wow. A snow goose. I also shot a eider one time off the coast of Rhode Island that was 12 years old, and it was banded in Newfoundland. So they use that data to track where birds go. Nowadays, it's even more sophisticated. Some of those are put GPS collars on them that have live data all the time. That's the really good stuff. It tracks all where they go. So we'll do that for about a week. Interview the biologists, get their story, and then we'll be off to Florida to do some B-roll of alligators and wetlands and bears that they have there, and do a range project, because Pittman and Robertson dollars also funds range building. And there's some incredible ranges. There's over 500 ranges that have been built in the United States with Pittman Robertson dollars. And there's a new one in Palm Beach that is super cool. It's even got an Olympic trap range on it. That's pretty neat. So we'll film that, get that story. And then in January, we'll be in West Virginia filming their transplanted elk herd. There's a great elk herd in West Virginia. It's a great story. Those were transplanted from Kentucky, and there's an awesome viewing tower. And then somewhere in there, we're looking for another segment. We were supposed to do a sheep capture, a helicopter net gunning of sheep and transplanting them from one part of the state in Nevada to another. We're having some difficulties doing that. So we're hopefully going to be able to do that maybe in December, but if not, we'll be figuring out another species in there. But regardless, we'll get this all done, and hopefully by June of 2026, we will release this documentary.
And where's that going to be released at?
That's up to, we're going to have to see. I mean, we're going to put it out on YouTube, hopefully Amazon. Most of the streaming services don't agree to run it until they see it. Gotcha. PBS and Discovery Channel, things like that, they want to view it first, and then we'll put it out. But we're going to work on distribution. I'm learning all about this. I was just talking to a company today that helps with distribution methods. Obviously, we'll put it in a bunch of film festivals. Hopefully it does well. And then from there, you get some kind of notoriety. And then people actually come to you and go, hey, how do I get your show on my network?
No, that's really cool. I want to talk more about this West Virginia elk population in a second, but Wanda said it would be extremely interesting to see a state-by-state list of what each state receives. Do you know of any website or anything like that lists?
Yeah, it's probably out. You could probably Google U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Pittman Robertson dollars. I know I've seen lists out there that to see what they get. There's got to be a list out there.
That's interesting. Yeah. Jeff Pro, this guy.
That guy. What's up, Jeff?
All the hikers, bikers, etc., who often side-eye hunters have no idea that Pittman Robinson pays for where they hike, bike, camp, etc.
Exactly right.
And this is true in totality when it comes to all the contributions, not just the Pittman Robertson Fund, but all the other contributions that come from hunters, shooters. I mean, there's a lot of things that a lot of funds come from hunting and shooting sports in general that, a lot of these folks, they just don't understand. And
yeah, I mean, you look at, but besides just Pittman Robertson dollars, hunters care. We do this because we care about wildlife. The worst part for me in hunting is the actual killing. That's unenjoyable anymore. I've done so much of it. I like taking people and watching them do their first whatever. But we care. And you look at what all the other organizations do: Ducks Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Wild Turkey Foundation, all the sheep organizations, National Deer Association, Mule Deer Association, how much millions upon millions of dollars they're putting into the resource, doing their own conservation work. And I always get the criticism, oh, you're just raising them to kill them. Trust me, I've worked in this industry my entire life. We're raising far more animals than are being taken. And in fact, on that, the state wildlife agencies, that's their job, is to manage healthy wildlife populations. And this is one of the things that when non-hunters learned it, that we're only harvesting what is called the biological surplus. So the land has a carrying capacity. And basically what that is the only amount of animals that can live on the land and maintain healthy game populations and a healthy ecosystem. So there's a tipping point when you have too many deer. There's probably people in this audience that live on the East Coast that are in places where the whitetails, the browse line in the winter is over their heads. And they're literally once the acorns are gone and they've eaten all the rhododendrons, they're starving until the grass comes up again. So the job of the state wildlife agency is to issue tags so that hunters then pay to manage the game populations for the state wildlife agencies. So they're only taking what's called the biological surplus, the amount above the carrying capacity of the land. Very scientific.
Yeah, it's scientific. It's ethical. It's the most compassionate way to go about it. Like we just can't not kill and cull some of the animals that are on the land out there, right? We have less hunters than ever before, just like we've talked about, which I'd like to talk a little bit about the fact that we have a hunter projected and continued decrease population, right? We have less hunters than ever before. And some of the challenges that we're going to face because of that. But when it comes to even the animals out there, the deer, elk, all of these game animals, like that's a real issue when they don't. Most of these animals, number one, we've removed all their natural predators. So there's not wolves in every place. There's not, mountain lions in every place. So people are the only natural predators that a lot of these animals have. And with less people hunting, we're going to have to do more and more control of those populations. It's a shame, to be honest with you, because like you said, ultimately, if we have overrun a population, it affects everything in the ecosystem. It makes everything sicker. It degrades everything, including the animal population itself. And man, it's just unbelievable that people are so ignorant. They can't seem to grasp that, or just, I don't know, just want to overlook that fact. It's like all they are is like, oh, you killed an animal. Well, It's either they die or a lot of other animals get sick and die. And not only that, it affects the entire rest of the ecosystem. Yeah,
you're right. There's a great documentary about the reintroduction to wolves back into Yellowstone, if you've never seen it. So, once the wolves were gone, the elk and all the other animals, the buffalo, got very comfortable, and they were just out everywhere. And they spent a lot of time in the stream beds. Yeah. And so their activity in the stream beds caused a lot of defoliation of the riverbanks, which caused a lot of erosion and made the rivers and the streams cloudier and dirtier. But when they reintroduced wolves, it pushed all those ungulates back up into the forest, and they saw this amazing revitalization of the streams because the grass grew back on the sides, the freshwater invertebrates came back, the things that fed on them, the fish, the snakes, the frogs, it all was a rebirth just because they reintroduced a species that was normally there that wasn't there. And that was just one example of how we have affected the landscape in this country.
Talk a little bit more about the elk herds that they're introducing here in West Virginia. Now, I'm assuming at some point elk was native to West Virginia.
I think, I don't know. I think that elk were, yes, they were native at one time to the East Coast. I don't know that totally. But there's been a big reintroduction plan in many Eastern states. Pennsylvania, Virginia has a huntable herd now. West Virginia is working on that. Kentucky has a herd. Yes, and mostly this, again, a lot of science. These animals are captured in another state. They're brought to the new state. They are quarantined for a good long time to make sure they didn't bring anything with them. And they're tested and tested and tested. And then they're reintroduced into those areas. It's a great success story. Mm. And in West Virginia, I haven't been there yet. I'm looking forward to going. Apparently, there is a viewing tower that they've made for the public that was paid for with wildlife dollars that the public can go and view out.
Do you know where that's at? We're in West Virginia.
I don't. Sorry.
Jamie looked that up.
I had a meeting with them, and I'll get directions when it's time to go there. I don't know. Sorry.
We'll post that link down in the description below. You guys can check that out later on. No, that's pretty crazy. I do want to hit this because there's some truth in this, but there's also Jeff Johnson says, "Man, depends on the hunter. Unfortunately, not all hunters care." He was responding to somebody else in the comments. Of course, there's no definitives in any population of anything, but I do think that most hunters, the overall population, does care about conservation, does care about, number one, we want to see, I think most outdoors folks in general, look, we want to see some preservation of hunting lands, of public lands. There's been a big fight about public lands. I know Mike Lee was introducing a bill to sell some of the public lands, I believe in like Utah and the Midwest there. Yep. I don't even know. I haven't heard his argument behind that. Generally, I agree with a lot of the policies that Mike Lee puts forth. So I'm curious to hear his side of that. I don't know what that argument is. I don't know if you do, Peter.
What was his argument? He didn't want to see him sold or wanted him sold?
No, so he actually introduced a bill to start selling off portions of public land. I don't know what the justification of that is.
Right.
I know that public land is a major resource in that area. I wish we had like some major large portions of public land where we can just go shoot and hunt and do whatever we want around this region. I don't know of really any.
Yeah. There's a lot on the East Coast. Yeah, that is an issue. There's a lot of large blocks of BLM land. We don't have it east. I think everything's west of the Mississippi, but your audience out there that knows what Bureau of Land Management is. And they're in my opinion, I would like to see more what we would call land swaps. If you've ever been out west and you've seen a map of what BLM looks like, it was doled out in sections. So a section is a mile by a mile. And if you look at a map of the West, everything's broken up in these squares, perfect squares. And it had something to do with the railroad, but you'll see a piece of BLM, and then right above it is private, and then left to the left is BLM, and this is private. So it's laid out like a checkerboard. And if any of your audience knows about the corner jumping issue, that all was because of BLM land. They had said forever, and I have been on these lands and hunted a lot of them, that you couldn't, where two squares came together, you couldn't cross from one to the other because you were trespassing in the airspace of private property. Well, that was challenged, and it was recently won on the hunter's defense that is a legal thing to do. Still, it's complicated to access some of that BLM and U.S. Forest Service property because it's landlocked. The Backcountry Hunters and Anglers group and On X did an unbelievably cool video years ago. I don't know where it is. It's got to be on YouTube, about all the inaccessible public land in America. And there's a lot of it. I want to throw a figure out of like 26 million acres, but I could be wrong. So somebody in your comments are going to get me on that. But there is a massive amount of unattainable public land in America because it's landlocked. People have bought all the property around it. I would love to see more of an effort of buying access to that land, either buying the easements through it so that we can get people on to use it. Because the problem that we have in America right now is that we're doing our best to try to recruit new hunters. The state agencies and organizations like the NRA and Ducks Unlimited are all involved in what's called R3, recruitment, reactivation, and retention. It's trying to get more hunters hunting. But the problem we're having now is these hunters that we're bringing in, they have no place to go. Yeah. Access is extremely difficult. And if you live anywhere around the Washington, D.C. area like I live, getting on a piece of property, a good piece of private property, is extremely hard. Or you got to pay a lot of money for a lease. Yeah. And even out west, there's not many good ranches that aren't leased or have somebody already hunting it. So your audience out there, if you've got good land and you can take someone hunting, take someone hunting. Let them experience, give them the skills they need, and then tell them to go out and start knocking on some doors. That is a skill set that most new hunters don't know how to do. They don't know how to ask permission.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I need to take my boys hunting sometime. I'll get with you and Jeff. Make you drag us along sometime.
Yes.
I think they would like that. Jeff said, yes, last elk in West Virginia was killed in 1875 and reintroduced in 2016. Current population estimated 150. PA is the same story. Last elk killed pre-1900. They were reintroduced in population now plus or minus 1,400. Wow, that's impressive. I didn't know there was elk in PA either.
Those are all those conservation dollars. Those you gun buyers and ammo buyers are supporting that. It wouldn't happen unless it was for you.
Well, we need to reintroduce mountain lions as well as buffalo here in wild buffalo here in West Virginia. I think that's the way to go. Yeah. All right. Let me get rid of this right here. Yeah. So, one of the things we're talking about, so basically if you are a NRA member, for those of you that are NRA members, if you pay NRA dues or have a lifetime membership, now the NRA Foundation doesn't get any of those funds, correct?
No, not the membership dollars. No, the NRA Foundation is not a membership organization. The main organization, the NRA is a membership organization. So when you pay a membership, the money goes to the NRA to help run all the great programs that they do. And then also you get a good magazine and the warm fuzzy that you're helping promote the Second Amendment.
Awesome. Now, with the NRA Foundation, how are most of those funds? Now you guys are a 501c3, but I always thought that the NRA was a 501c3 as well. Are they not?
No, it's a C4.
Okay.
C4. Yep.
Gotcha.
So most of the money that's raised, so if you've ever been to a Friends of the NRA program, which is a banquet dinner in your town, the dollars that are raised there, 50% of those dollars stay in the state for a state funds committee to decide how they're going to spend it. And it's got to be spent in the mission of the NRA Foundation, which is supporting shooting sports and youth shooting sports. And then half of that goes to the National Foundation that manages some of the programs that we do at the main organization. So when I was there, for example, I started an online hunter education free program, nrahe.org. That was funded by the foundation. We did a lot of stuff for Hunters for the Hungry. That was funded by the foundation. We had range grants that we helped people build, state wildlife agencies build ranges. That was funded by the foundation. So that money, half of that used goes back to the general main foundation to give away in grants. Some of that grants does go back to the main organization, NRA. But for example, we've given, the Boy Scouts is a big partner of the foundation. An organization called USA Clay Targets. If you live in the Midwest and your child shoots on a school team, I know that's a weird thing to say on the East Coast, but in the Midwest, schools have shooting teams. They're the largest youth clay throwing target league in America. They do great stuff. We gave money to the U.S. Olympic shooting team. I think we've given almost $750,000 to USA Shooting to support the Olympic teams and buy them ammo and get them ready for the Olympics. So those are just some of the things that we fund. But
Now,
like I said earlier, since the inception in 1990, just under $510 million have been given away to support those foundation activities.
well,
Pretty impressive.
no, it is impressive.
If you've ever been to the NRA Firearms Museum, we have one in Fairfax. It's actually called the National Firearms Museum. And then we have one in Springfield, Missouri at the Bass Pro Shops. That's extremely impressive. And then we have another one at our Whittington Center out in Raton, New Mexico. So the Whittington Center is also another affiliate of the NRA. It is a 33,000 acre ranch that's in a little town called Raton, New Mexico. And it's a shooting paradise. We hold a lot of tournaments there. We have 3 sporting clays. There's too many to name. We have every shooting discipline that you can imagine. I think they shoot out to 2 or 3 miles out there.
Yeah. Don't they have a big NRL match out there every year as well?
You know, there's a lot of tournaments. I know we do PRS out there. I can't keep up with it. They're running. They have their own staff. I think there's like 25 staff people that manage the Whittington Center.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'm heading there in a week and a half.
Now, you were talking a little bit about we see that we have a major decline in the hunting population here in the United States, and that's not on a good trajectory. So what are some of the programs that you guys are putting forth to kind of turn that around?
Yeah, so R3, like I said, recruitment, reactivation, and retention. There's a lot of great organizations that have, we fund at the NRA an organization called the First Hunt Foundation, and they are the largest hunting and shooting mentoring organization in the United States. I believe they're in all 50 states now. They have volunteers in all 50 states. They have no paid staff, 100% nonprofit organization, and they have volunteers that take people and introduce them to what I call the life outside. They mentor them through their firearm purchasing process, getting them the right gear, and then taking them on their hunt and showing them how to do it. State agencies have instituted programs where you can skip hunter ed for a year, as long as you're with a qualified, certified mentor. So you don't have that barrier to go into it. A lot of state agencies have a how to hunt program. So they will have days where they'll take you out to maybe a pheasant release farm. So you understand how to mount the gun properly in a safe shooting line, working with dogs. And then many organizations have something called a field to fork, where they'll show you how to clean it and cook it. That was a big barrier to new hunters. Great. I go out there and I got it, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to eviscerate it. I don't know how to butcher it. I don't know what to do with it. So we've learned over the years that there's many support tools to give these new hunters to keep them around.
Yeah, not necessarily here, but offline. Let's you and I get together. I'd like to do something, see how we can get involved in doing some things like that, with between some of the resources that we have in our training facility and of course, big, wild and wonderful West Virginia. I think there's some cool things that we could do with that and get a little bit more involved into the hunting world and help be a advocate for that. I think one of the biggest benefits to hunting too is again, not only getting people outdoors and all those things, which I think the benefits of those that we don't even need to address, but the other part of that is, I just think needs to be a lot more that father and son, father and daughter, father and wife time. I think that is one of the big components that is part of the problem of the breakdown of the American family. And I think hunting really does play a part in that. I think there's so many kids that grew up hunting with their dads that left such a major impression on them that, we don't see that moving forward. Even things like camping trips, like nobody does that stuff anymore, or it's a lot less than it used to be. So I think some of those things, whether it's mentoring, whether it's, helping figure out a way, people basically teaching fathers how to take their sons out and their families out into the wild and do it in a fun way, in a comfortable way. Yeah, I think there needs to be more programs geared toward that, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because if you don't, if a youth learns to hunt, that's great. They don't have a network to get. They don't have a car. They can't get there. So I have heard of programs that do start involving the parents if the child want to do it, so that they're interested as well, so that the child can push the parents to do it, because they have the transportation mechanisms to get them to where they want to go. There's a lot of good programs out there called Unplug. And the data shows that if you don't grow up in a family that hunts, the likelihood of you hunting is extremely small. One of the largest growth factors we see in hunting is something called adult onset hunting. Sounds like a disease. But it's people who have learned that the kids have left, they're empty nesters, they got a little more money, a little more time. Maybe they want to know where their food comes from, the locavore movement. And so we have a lot of adults that never hunted in their life wanting to learn to do it.
Yeah. Jeff brings up a great point here. He says taking people hunting also gives them a pro-gun experience instead of just nightly news showing, the bad things and hearing all the propaganda when it comes to the anti-gun movement.
It's a good point.
Tuvenic says, didn't grow up hunting, but grew up shooting black powder with father and grandfather. It was by far the best bonding experience I had as a child.
Yeah, and a black powder shooting will make you a good shot, because it's not just pulling the trigger. You got to really take your time.
Yep. And you get one shot.
Okay, one shot.
Ed, welcome, Ed. I never had exposure growing up, not for hunting or firearms. Paramount Tactical could be a positive influence. Yeah. I think whatever we can do to one of the things that we have done in the past with the NRA is we started a family survival course, which was really fun. Oh, we love doing those things, getting people outdoors for the very first time. And it's just, there's so many things I think so many of us take for granted, or maybe some of you don't, but I would bet you that there is less than 10% of the population that with a book of matches could actually start a fire within 5 minutes or so. Like little things like that. One of the things that we ended up, as we continued that program, one of the things we started incorporating was like, well, part of survival is like knowing how to change a tire. Like, I remember having a course, we had like 15 people there in their family, and not a single person there had ever changed a tire and didn't really know how to. So, little things like that, man, it's some of these hard skills that we've become, just kind of faded away. They've atrophied. And at the same time, with all of our training, we try to make sure that we create or we promote a correct mindset and a progressive level of training. And, shooting like John Wick is cool, and that's great. We want you to be able to do that. But if you can't change a tire, if you don't know how to use a tourniquet, all those things are more important, right, than actually knowing how to shoot and load a gun and be able to shoot fast and quick and accurate and all the things that we want you to be able to do.
Maybe that's a new school.
Which one?
It's funny. On a side note, though, sorry, we had a huge storm here like 3 years ago. Bad. I mean, no power for 6 days, 3 feet of snow, broke all the trees. And we had I live back in the woods, so we had to, like 3 days, cut our way out of here. Yeah. And the neighbors, after a day, everyone's like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. It was literally like 6 days before we could get like 4 miles away. And everyone wanted to help. So they brought their chainsaws out, and these guys in the neighborhood, sorry guys, if you're watching, but they ran the blade down and they didn't know how to change the blade or sharpen it. Yeah. So they had probably never used the thing ever, probably pulled it out of the box, their steel farm boss. And they didn't, when it was done, once it was dull, it was done. That was like a one-time use for them. And I was like, all right, we have a class about how to sharpen a blade here.
Yeah, no, most people don't. Most people don't know how to sharpen a chainsaw. Most people don't. I turned into a chainsaw fanatic during COVID. I was cutting up, I ended up buying a big, steel, I think is a 460 I got out in the garage. Something like, it was like the second largest industrial chainsaw, and I had to get
like
that.
24-inch blade or something.
Yeah. At least I think it's a 28-inch bar. But I learned how to sharpen, by hand. I learned how to tune the thing. I got all crazy with chainsaws, and they're a lot of fun. But it's an important skill to have. And since then, I can't tell you how many times I had my buddy that didn't know how to freaking notch a tree, and he tried to cut down a tree, went and bought a chainsaw, cut down a tree, just cutting right through it. And of course his bar got stuck. So I had to come over there and, show him how to notch the tree, get it out of there. And, those are important man skills that we should just all have, including women. I think women should be able to run a chainsaw too. We all need to be self-sufficient. We need to be Americans, by God. Get out there and learn some skills for sure.
I bet Summer knows how to run a chainsaw.
She does know how to run a chainsaw. She's chased me around the house with it multiple times. It's there are some Willie says I'm terrible sharpening them, but I keep trying. So Still makes a really good file set that basically it has a guide and everything built in. Extremely handy, extremely easy to use. I would say learn to use a standard bastard file. It does take some time and patience, but it's a good skill to have too.
They do. There's actually a video, a guy online who he literally bought all the sharpeners, an electrical one, and the one that did the best sharpening was that hand tool that has a little guide on it. They scientifically cut it with a weight on it, so they weren't pushing it. And the best blade they got was that hand tool.
That makes sense. Sounds like a Project Farm video for sure. Chaps are nice to have. They're hot in the summer. I got 3 pairs of them, and I always start off wearing them, and next thing you know, they're coming off.
Yeah, I agree. Chaps are important. I don't have any, but they are a good safety measure.
100%. Yeah, we got to get more people hunting. Without a doubt, Peter. I think that's another project that we need to start working on and seeing what we can do to contribute to that. One of the things I do want to do, you mentioned a bunch of different links and things like that in different programs. If you ever get a moment, if you just throw some of those links in those organizations that you recommend and shoot those to me in an email, what I would like to do is get those put up on our website, easily accessed, and that way when people are out there like, hey, you know what, I need to get these kids off these electronics. We need to get them outdoors. And, they can find some of these resources. They can contact those people and they can find stuff for them to do. Because I'll tell you, the mental health in America, I'm sure someone's done a study on it, but I guarantee you there's a direct correlation between the fact that we spend less time outside and the decline of mental health in the United States.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's absolutely a huge correlation between the two, and it's just something that it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I'll tell you one right now. That's a great one for your audience. NRAHE.org. So NRAHE.org. NRA, huntereducation.org. It's a free course. It is an 8-hour. We spent $4 million building this unbelievably modern, fun, free, friendly, intuitive, interactive online hunter education course that will give you your certification. We're currently welcomed in 16 states, but there are many states that will certify you out of state. So I know that if you live in Vermont, you can take the North Carolina course and they will give you your hunter education for life in all 50 states. And it is free and is literally a cool, fun course. That's it. Got a little sizzle reel if you want to play it. Scroll down a little bit. It just shows you how neat the course is.
From the organization that created the first hunter education program in the United States comes the world's most advanced and immersive online hunter education course, a course that is completely free to everyone. It's never been easier to access learning that helps you become a more responsible and safer hunter. With hunters of all ages in mind, the NRA has applied the latest systematic learning methodologies to design and develop an experience that allows new hunters to obtain and retain the skills needed to be safe, ethical, and responsible members of the hunting community. This course is fully interactive with videos, 3D models, and learning activities that captivate and teach students. The NRA's Hunter Education Program is the only online course that provides the base matching dollars that allows state agencies to receive Pittman Robertson funding. The free NRA online hunter education course helps recruit new hunters, reduces barriers of entry, and provides a fun, engaging, and interactive learning experience like no other online course. To start learning today or for more information, visit nrahe.org or email at nrahe@nrahq.org.
Yep, that's it. That's a great. It's free. Anybody here can take it. They can get some advanced education. In some states, you can get your concealed weapons permit with a hunter education certification. And if just for people who want general firearms safety, that is in there too. It's all interactive. I think the longest video you'll watch in that whole thing is about 2 minutes long. So there's gamification, there's quizzes all through it. It's an unbelievable resource. I think we have certified over 260,000 people in that course for free, saving them probably about $10 million. That's what they would have had to pay the for-profit vendor to take hunter education.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Those things I talked about earlier, Pittman Robertson. So one of the ways the state gets Pittman Robertson dollars is through an in-kind donation of instructors. Most instructors in the United States who teach hunter ed are volunteers. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service values that hour as an in-kind donation. So it becomes a real dollar. So the roll up of how many hours the instructors taught in Virginia for a year equals, say, $11,000. Well, the times that times 3, and the state gets real money times $11,000 times 3. Well, our course was looked at as the same way. We actually had to lobby the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in D.C., and they agreed with us that our course, it was free. So for every student that takes it, anywhere between $40 and $70, depending on what the vendor charges in their state, they get Pittman Robertson match. So the state doesn't have to do anything. Basically, we run their online hunter education for them, and they get free money. One of the best parts of my whole job was going around to these commission meetings and delivering these ceremonial big checks for $1 million to Oklahoma and Kansas that were using our course. It's cool.
That is cool. No, that is cool. And this goes back to one of the things. Look, I think there's been a lot of controversy amongst when it comes to the NRA, but I think sometimes, like, there is no other organization that is doing some of these things that are definitely important to hunting community, to 2A rights, to awareness, education, all these other things. And hopefully we'll see some big changes along those lines.
Yeah, nobody's doing stuff for School Shield. No one's doing Eddie Eagles. No one's doing the programs that the NRA does. There's so much behind it that people don't know or see because the political activism overshadowed the things that we did. But dig in there a little bit. There is a lot of great programs that is done out there for safety and training.
Yep, absolutely. Looking through these comments real quick. Yeah. So what else, Peter?
I'm looking forward to doing that shooting match with you.
Yeah, man. So for those of you guys don't know, we're going to be doing the Major Land Sniper Cup here at mid-October. I'm looking forward to that. Peter shot that last year. I think you shot it every year that it's existed, right? It's been going on for
the last 2 years.
Last 2 years.
Yeah.
If you're not signed up for it by now, all the slots are gone. But we're going to be doing that for those of you guys that have been to our long range courses. You guys know me and Mo will be teaming up. Peter and another one of our instructors will be teaming up, Denny. And man, it's going to be a good time. Also,
I can't wait.
And I'll tell you, one of the other cool things too is we're going to do a vendor tent this year. We're going to support the event in a couple different ways besides just us shooting it. So it's really cool to get back into like the military sniper community. Once I got out of the military, I didn't really keep ties. I don't even know if I knew that there was like an Army sniper association. I think I did at one point, but it's just one of those things. Kind of walked away. But I've also become pretty good friends with the guys from the Marine Corps Sniper Association, which really great guys. We're planning on doing some collaborative work. and looking forward to doing some stuff with them as well. So, yeah, if you're going to that, make sure you stop by our tent, say hello. We'll have a bunch of gear there for sale if you want to buy it. You know, tripod, all the stuff that most of you guys are going to forget or don't realize you need till you get there. Come see us. We'll take care of you, and we'll be running some discount stuff for all the shooters out there as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. But that's going to be a good time for sure. It was a great time last year. It was the first time I did it. It's going to be a good time this year, and I think this year's even going to be better. We actually, I know Frank from Sniper's Hide has gotten involved. There was a little bit of, I don't know, some of the courses of fire and descriptions were a little convoluted, got a little crazy, got a little silly. I know Frank Galley got involved, and he's squared those away, simplified them a little bit, and
wait a minute. You don't want to shoot a prairie dog offhand at 100 yards with a 15-pound rifle?
So I didn't even mind that. It was the crazy course of fire descriptions that I know, like the first 2 stages I went to, like even the RO's like, I don't really know what this means. Like, so there was a little backup there. And then some of them took so long to actually brief that there was a big kind of log there. So the point is that the location is awesome.
It is.
The course of fire itself was really awesome. And everything was just a lot of fun. There was just a little bit like a 10% cleanup around the edges will make that event 1,000. Like it'll just take away anything to complain about because it was such a great time. You know, I know they
did a good job, and that's a beautiful mountain. If you didn't know where they have it, Spear Mountain, Virginia, it is the tallest point east of the Appalachians.
Yep. And
so it's big knob.
A lot of cool history there too. So you can look that up. There's a lot of cool history with that. Yeah, it was, you know, part of a communication network, you know, during the Cold War. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. So you can Google that stuff. Spears Mountain in Virginia. Flat Earth science deniers. I don't know what he's talking about, but UMOA. So. But yeah, we're gonna get Peter spun up. We're gonna get some training days in, me, Peter, Mo, and Denny, and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll get all our gear together. It's gonna be a good time. And folks, again, if you are interested, if you've taken our courses already, number one, if you've taken level 1 or level 2, you can come out, and we're gonna be running that NRA/sniper/field match training course the week prior to, as a matter of fact, of the Majorland Sniper Cup. So we're going to go up there. We're going to run that first course. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't taken our long range courses, you should. You know, I'm really proud of that product that we've produced. It's a professional, progressive training program. And for those of you that have been in the course, you know, and one of the best things that I hear time and time again, and this isn't tooting our own horn that much, but it's just what I'm hearing from our clients is that, look, there's lots of guys that come to our courses that have been to all the other big name courses, and they're like, this is the course. I literally have one guy like, this is the course that I always wanted that I never thought I'd get. So, you know, come do some training with us. We're doing long range the right way. And I think you'll like that. So, we got some more content coming up. I actually have the problem with some of those courses is that I produce so much video and I'm trying to instruct and all this other stuff that I haven't been very good at putting out the marketing content for that. So I've hired a editing company. They're doing some of that stuff for me. We're handing some of that stuff off. And for those of you still asking about the KDEX Defense factory tour, they're also editing that video, folks. That was, I don't know, like we had like 2 cameras rolling. It was over 2 days. There's probably 7 or 8 hours of video that we got to, you know, kind of edit through. And so be patient with us on that. We'll get it to you. It is cool. It's worth watching. We just want to make sure that we get you a good product out there. Well, cool, Peter.
Didn't you say you were giving a rifle away tonight?
Yeah, I'm giving away this and not tonight and not on YouTube. All right. Some point in time in person, we're going to, with a background check, we're going to give away this beautiful Accuracy International back here, folks. So we'll send out information on how to get into that raffle. No, that's actually Peter's rifle back there. That's Peter's beautiful rifle that he may or may never see again. I don't know.
I may not. Yeah.
I'm going to hand him back a high power. Like, oh, this is what the baby. I'll paint it brown. Don't worry. It'll still be FPE.
Thanks.
Well, listen, Peter, we really appreciate you coming on, man. I think this is good. Keep us updated. Like I said, I do want to get with you. We'll talk about some things that we can do that maybe we can get Paramount involved in. I think that is a whole untapped market. And I don't say that from a point of like just a capitalistic, hey, I want to make money off this. I think there's a whole area of education and things that we want to get more gun owners into. Like that's what we're all about. We're about spreading the messages to getting people involved in their community, making them more self-sufficient. And I think we're missing a lot of the hunters. We're good on the tactical side and the self-defense side and all the stuff that we do. But I think we're missing a huge portion of potential gun owners and freedom lovers that we're missing out on by not kind of pushing more and advocating for the hunting side of it. And that's something I need to, I'm saying a lot of these things about not getting out enough and spending time with our families and things like that. And a lot of that, I'm talking to myself as well. That's something I've been meaning to do with my kids. We do outdoor activities, they go shooting, they do all these things that I would have gone nuts for. And now they take for granted as a kid, right? They're like, oh yeah, everybody goes shooting all the time. Everybody has pretty much unlimited ammo, don't they? Everybody has like nice guns all the time, but that is something that I've been wanting to do with my kids, where we're doing these outdoor adventures, taking them hunting, all the things, right? Spending some real quality time in the outdoors and away from these screens, and then showing them at a minimum, showing them that there's other fun and exciting things to do. They may not end up, if they decide they don't want to pursue that later on in life or whatever else, at least I gave them that options, and I prepare them and just expose that to them to some extent. And hopefully they will, and then they'll do the same thing with their kids. And that's what being good Americans is all about.
You bet.
Well, listen, Peter, thank you for coming on so much.
Thank
Stay
you.
tuned. Folks, go to ParamountTactical.com, get all your gear there. If you have any questions, make sure you send us an email, services@ParamountTactical.com. We did put up some new courses, both tactical carbine, handgun courses. A lot of people were asking for additional courses this year. We put them up on the calendar, and we got a lot more coming. So go check all that out on our website. I got more content coming out on the YouTube channels as well. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.